One of our listeners wants to know, did you ever get to meet and did you ever have an opportunity to perform with Johnny Cash?
No, I did meet Johnny Cash once. I never did get to play with him. But I had two Johnny Cash experiences. The first one was I met him in June. There was the Highwaymen were on tour in Australia, and I was hanging out with this young banjo player who was in the opening act. And Johnny Cash and June just put their head around the corner, and as him and I sitting there playing, and he said, "These boys can pick," like that, and then he just walked on, right? But my greatest memory of Johnny Cash was for my 40th birthday. My ex-wife, she was my wife at the time, she surprised me with a ticket to the Highwaymen in San Francisco. We were living in San Francisco at the time. And I don't know whether you've ever seen Johnny Cash live, but I have never experienced anybody with that much charisma. There was about 20,000 people, and I had we had really good seats. And Chris Christopherson was wonderful, and Willie Nelson and Waylon. And when Johnny Cash came out, the tears just welled in my eyes. And I looked around me, and it was the same for everybody. And I didn't know why, but you couldn't take your eyes off him. And he was just standing there, right? He wasn't doing anything. He was just standing there. The audience was screaming so loudly and going crazy. And he just stood there and waited. And then it started to die down. And he moved to the mic, and they went up, erupted again, right? And then he just kind of lifted the guitar up to the mic and strummed it a little bit, and they went crazy again. And I looked around me, and everybody was weeping. And then he just slowly went on the mic and went, "Get rhythm," and we all just lost it. You know? I nearly needed my brown corduroy trousers. It was so incredible. It really was. And I've never experienced that much charisma from a person ever in my life. Can you imagine what it must have been like being near the front row when Elvis walked on stage? I mean, those kind of people are not around anymore. Although Justin Timberlake comes pretty close. He's an amazing performer. But that was my Johnny Cash experience.
And yet, there was such a humbleness about them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because sitting right here in this studio by himself was Waylon Jennings, who I absolutely adored.
Yeah.
And he sat here till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and he got up, and we thought people were with him down the hall. He was by himself. He walked out on Michigan Avenue, walked down the street, and we realized there was a hotel key here. And he'd left his hotel key. He was by himself. And so we had to have a producer run down the street to get his hotel key to him. And he came back and he said he was just standing there in the lobby, kind of patting his pants pockets like, uh-oh, I forgot my key. No one was with Waylon. I said, oh, he's just an average Joe, just out for a walk on a night and happened by a radio station.
How about that?
Yeah. You talk about the first time you saw Johnny Cash. First time I ever saw Johnny Cash was one of the best concert experiences I ever had in my life. It was at what was then the Medina Temple here in Chicago.
Wow.
Johnny was the star. This was late 60s. Johnny Cash with Carl Perkins on guitar, Jerry Lee Lewis, the Statler brothers, and the Carter family.
Wow, what a show.
It was just... Yeah, I was shaking my head at the end of that night.
I bet you were. Wow. Seeing Carl Perkins. If you go in Memphis, there's the Rock and Soul Museum across the road from the new Gibson factory. Right? And I went in there, and the very first exhibit is a film. It runs about 10 minutes talking about the birth of rock and soul music, right? And at the end of it, Carl Perkins is singing a song, and he's just playing guitar, just guitar and voice. And the groove is so damn wonderful. Yeah. I sat there, and I sat through the film a second time so I could hear that passage again, because it was so beautiful, simple but really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about,
Well, I think we should shut up. Johnny had a request.
Well, actually, a couple of people requested something that they know.
I only do requests when I'm asked.
Well, there's some interesting stories behind the people who requested Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and they'd actually heard you perform that the first time on our show, and they knew that it was a favorite of ours, of Les's, of Paul Harvey's, because he called after you were on the show and just raved about how wonderful it was.
Oh,
and
great.
could he get a copy of it for his own enjoyment. And so, and in fact, I think it was about this time of the morning that you played it for us.
This
the
is
very
a good
first
time to play it.
Yeah. Okay.